Good morning, Jobman community. I hope you're all well. Thursday, September 24th. Year has flown. We're nearly there. A couple of months to go. Very exciting. We have lots on for you today. It's been a big couple of weeks since our last webinar, and we are certainly very excited to present some brand new features. Most of today is going to be focused around new usability and functionality improvements, which is always a big thing. How can we save you more time within the application, less clicks, make your life easier, present information faster so that you can really get the most out of your software? So let's dive in. What's new? There's lots new. We're very, very pumped at the moment. We are certainly not slowing down towards Christmas, so there is plenty coming out and plenty more to come. Stay tuned. If you haven't registered for this webinar yet, we highly recommend it. We run them pretty much every 2 weeks, and we're constantly going over new features, new improvements, and even taking time to deep dive into some of the existing functionality of Jobman so you can get the best out of it for your business. So what's new? The right-click quick access job and lead summary pop-ups. These are huge. Traditionally, when dealing with most of the rescheduling in Jobman, you've had several areas with which you could interact with that, from the task menu within the job or lead itself through to agenda screens, capacity planning, and target calendars. But one thing we are always looking for is there a way to save you a number of clicks to get to where you want to go to achieve the thing you want to do? And if we can shorten that cycle, make it faster, and even better, make it more responsive in the software, it will have a huge benefit to your day-to-day operation of the software. And it's something that we can roll out pretty much software wide. So we're really excited at this. It's been in the platform for a couple of weeks now. It's getting a huge response, and I want to make sure that everyone is aware of how to use it, what you can use it for, and what else you'll be able to do in the future. Another massive functionality improvement, or really usability improvement, is quote summary reportings are now available for item. This has been a big requested feature, something that was always on our roadmap. We managed to find some time to get that finished and happening in the software. And there's a number of ways again now with which you can achieve the same result, providing more validity. The big thing about any platform, especially your ERP that's running your business, is you want access to the data and the validation at the point where it makes the most sense. So having this information available to you before a quote even goes out the door is big. And the fact that you can drill down even further now, absolutely massive. So looking forward to showing you that one. Another really big usability function change up is we have separated invoicing and bills throughout the software. Now, I won't go too much into this one from a historic standpoint, but I will explain briefly when we're in the in the area as to why it was and why it is now. And I think for a lot of companies, this is going to make a lot more sense, and this will really just help make finding the information you want just that little bit easier, which I think is extremely useful, and certainly another one that has been extremely well received since the release. We have a new functionality that's existed in the software for a while, but is now probably more tuned to be, I'm not sure what the word is, but more functional for the users that wish to use it, but it comes with some caveats. So we have the ability now to restrict operations specific to staff members. And I want to go over this one a little bit today because this one has come out, and it's one of those interesting functions where for a lot of companies that were asking for it, they now have it, but there's definitely some caveats to think about when utilizing it and whether or not it's suitable for you in your business. So we want to make sure that we provide as much information here around whether or not to use it. And that's an unusual thing in software. Normally, when we create or design or bring things in, they're there to benefit all users. Occasionally, we do have some functionality that comes in specific to some companies. And if you're not aware of what it does, and you sort of may have been semi-playing with it, you might not be aware of the limitations. So it might not actually be worth you using for your company. But then again, it could be something really important. So I think this is going to be a really good release feature. Just needs a little bit of understanding, and that's why we're here today. Last one is a small functionality improvement. In the resource job materials area, you can now see both units and quantity where relevant. So, Jobman as a foundation when dealing with materials, 99% of the time, it's using what we call units, which makes a lot of sense. You buy a hinge, therefore it's 1 unit. You use a hinge, therefore it's 1 unit. You may, in turn, buy a pack of hinges, and it may come in a pack of 100. Therefore, one item is 100 units. So it's a generally very straightforward relationship for most of the job resource material handling in the system. And given how powerful our auto sourcing is from inventory or stock in transit or batching to purchase order, makes a lot of sense to give you as much information as we can, excuse me, at the level where we're presenting it. The flip side to that is the system is also very intelligent for handling things in manufacturing that are not one-for-one relationships. So the perfect day-to-day example for most manufacturing industries would be boards or sheets, whether they be, MDF board or sheet metal or something along those lines, where the pricing you utilize in the system is based on square meter. So that's what we call the quantity. 1 unit or one sheet is equivalent to 2.88 square meters of board, for example, if it's a 2400 by 1200 board. So the intelligence behind the system is whilst you can purchase in the amount that makes sense for your vendors, and whilst you can quote using a number that makes sense to utilize, parametrices in products, there is, of course, the flip side to that, where when you actually go to handle these things in your inventory or your management of the manufacturing, you want to handle them in sheets. So we have some intelligent conversion built into the system specifically for boards and sheets called handle in whole quantities. And what that does is it changes the units and quantity amounts. So the quantity percentage or meter squared goes to a number of units, a number of sheets. So you can order, for example, 800 square meters, but that is the equivalent of 10 sheets because that's what you actually handle. That's what's delivered. That's what you receive. That's what the team picks and then uses to manufacture. So that has always worked in our system. It's a phenomenal feature that is well taken advantage of by many clients. And what we can do now, just to make it a bit clearer in the areas where that's relevant, is give you both numbers so that there's a little bit more validation around what you're ordering, and you can definitely be sure that you're ordering the right thing and that your catalog material is set up correctly. So, little one, but again, very impactful for the day-to-day use of the software. As always, this webinar is being recorded. All our attendees are on mute, but a copy will be emailed out to all the registered attendees at the conclusion of this webinar. We often, or in fact always, further down the track, we'll also place this on YouTube. So if you are coming back to this post hoc and you weren't available to attend the webinar, it will be available for future referencing. Most importantly, it's there for your team as well. And we always recommend that if you are part of the Jobman community and you are using the software, we spend a lot of time providing as much free education and use case for the software as possible. Subscribe. It's absolutely worth subscribing to the channel. We put a lot of videos up, and also register for this event. If you've got staff members that are deep into using Jobman in your company and they're sort of putting their hand up and saying, hey, I could really, get involved with this platform and provide more automation and more benefit to your business, then get them to register for the webinar. And make sure that you have access to all that information going forward. And even if you can't attend, we know, everybody's busy. It's not always easy to get that hour out of your day. Not a problem. Just by registering, we'll make sure that you get a copy at the conclusion and you can move forward. If you do have some questions today, as always, you can go down the bottom and click on the chat button, and that will pop up a Q&A menu. And usually at the end of these webinars, I have a little bit of time to cover off some of those questions and cover through a bit of the extra functionality around what you might be experiencing with the new releases, which is always exciting. So this is a big one, and this has been something that's been in the development pipeline for about 6 months now. Just to give you an idea of how massive this development is, quick access job and lead summary guides. So one of the things about browser-based software platforms is often we build a lot of the software around what we call hyperlinking. The advantage of Jobman is you can go into most areas and without having to go into something to go find the information you want, you can simply click on a button. It'll take you directly to the area and then you can engage with the software. This saves a lot of clicks, saves a lot of headaches, saves you a lot of time, really is what it's all about. So a good example would be if you're inside a quote and you receive a notification that says the quote has been accepted. Within that quote, there's a hyperlink directly to the lead. So you can take the trigger or the notification, go directly to the quote, see that it's accepted, and then go direct to the lead and move it forward in your process. All in a couple of clicks, all very easy. Really, really good, solid foundation for using the software. However, we are always looking for ways with which we can speed up that process even further. And one of the most common day-to-day tasks for most manufacturers, especially when engaging with a job management or scheduling software, is that you have a constant array of jobs and leads that are being dealt with at different stages, and you need two things to be at your disposal very quickly. One is information. Where are my leads and jobs up to? What statuses are they in? The ability to quickly isolate information and see where things are behind, where things need to be caught up on, where things might need to be moved. And as part of that, we have the job and lead screens, which are a fantastic grid, which provide information on all of your jobs and leads and the status they're up to and can be filtered, in fact, by status. And with the recent new development of multi-select filtering, you can even narrow that list even further. So show me all the jobs that are for builder, for example, where the drafts person is Cam, which are in the status cutting. You can get really, really in depth on those main screens and really filter the information quickly. The downside has been that if you then want to interact with the job or lead itself, you've had to go into the job or lead and then go to the relevant area, such as rescheduling for a task. You have to then go into the job, click on the job, go to the task menu, and then see the Kanban view of where everything is up to, and then make changes from that point, which is fantastic. It's a day-to-day process. The software is there to provide transparency and that a level of ability and capability, but it's a couple of clicks. So what we started investigating about 6 months ago was the capability of adding right-click functionality into the software. Now, for most users, right-click in browser-based software is delimited to one function, and it's usually just open in a new tab. What the team was able to achieve, which is mind-boggling, how they've done this, is they were able to create a right-click menu direct link to those specific areas within the lead or job so that you could attack them immediately. But rather than just take you there, because every time you have to go to a new web page, there's a loading process. Maybe it's a really large job and there's potentially a lot of information in the background. Maybe that takes a couple of seconds. Rather than do that, they saw an opportunity to create a new component functionality in our software called a modal. And I'm not going to go into the technicalities of it. Don't worry. I don't understand them myself. But they are absolutely a phenomenal engagement technology for software, where basically what we're able to do is bring up a dialogue that's live within your software that can load in a millisecond. Because rather than having to go into the job and load all the information and all the different tabs, and you might have a job and you've got emails, you've got hundreds of emails and item specifications, and there's a lot of stuff in there when you're actually going into the job itself to load the information. 9 times out of 10, people simply want to make a quick change or see some quick information. So you can see here that the new model allows you to quickly bring this information up. It's lightning fast. It's extremely impressive. We spent not just months building this, but the team spent additional weeks really ensuring that this was absolutely responsive. They want it to feel amazing in your hands so that it just can really speed up that day-to-day process. And let's be honest, it's a job management software and a CRM. You're going to spend a lot of time in and out of leads and jobs. So that millisecond compared potentially to a second or two adds up across your team, across a year, across years, you know what I mean? It's an expanding and compounding effect for time saving. By doing that, they've not only been able to achieve the information quickly in the system, but they were able to make the modal engaging. So what that means is you can quickly right click and you can bring up this task menu and you can make changes live on the modal. So you can set new target dates and quickly recalculate. That's the most common use case is you just want to quickly reschedule. You can drop and drag tasks right there live. You can add new tasks. You can move statuses. You can check who completed the task. You can see when the tasks were completed versus the dates. You can see where things have gone red because they're behind versus normal. You can see the progress of time versus the expected, all from one model, lightning fast, quick in the software at your fingertips. And this is massive. This is, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit excited. They didn't just stop there. They then asked, what else can we bring into this view to allow users to really get the most out of it, again, without having to go necessarily into the job or lead. And they've also now provided an info tab as well. And in that info tab, you can see important information about the lead itself, hyperlinks to things like street addresses and site addresses. So again, you don't need to go into the lead or job to find the info tab, to find the site address, to click to take you to the menu. You can just quickly right click, bring this up, bang, take me to the Google map. I believe they also added this week the ability to see lead details and job details. So custom details that you build into your system that are absolutely relevant to your business. The software allows you to customize those, and now you can have those at your fingertips. A super common example I hear of job detail usage is sheet count. It's one of those areas where the software is designed to automate and handle your capacity and your scheduling. And a big part of that is speed and the intelligence behind the system. But a lot of companies want extra details. For example, they know how many meters per second their CNCs are operating at. Therefore, they can back calculate to a rough guide of how many sheets they can move per day. Therefore, when looking at their scheduling and setting up their cutting for the day, it's handy information to have a guide come in and you can build that custom detail. And now you can see it in this tab, which means in a microsecond later, you can flick to the scheduling tab or the task view in this beautiful new classic mode where we've gone vertical rather than wide. I think for a lot of users, it's way easier to scroll down, whether you're on a phone or on a computer. It's easy to scroll down sometimes and across because the information is quick, it's transparent, and make those changes. And then you can simply exit the modal and grab the next job or lead, right click, grab the next job or lead, right click, grab the next job or right. That functionality it seems so, I guess, so simple in its execution, but it's designed to be that. We want it to be simple, but super powerful. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about it today was because if you don't know what's there, you don't know what's there and you're missing out. So really exciting. Have a go, jump in, make sure you make your team aware of this because this is a big one. Now, as most of you would be aware, there is no such thing as right-click functionality on mobile devices. So this is not really designed as an improvement for mobile users. To be honest, most of you mobile users are probably kiosk anyway, and they don't have access to this software. It can be accessed via the three-dot tab to the right of the grid on the mobile. So if you're on the fly and you pulled out Jobman on your tablet or your mobile, it can still be accessed. But just be aware that it's very sensitive and it's very fast technology. So on the mobile on that, when you're scrolling through, just be careful. You might move things accidentally. This is really designed to improve the front end management of the software and buy back a lot of time. So really exciting. I'm going to show you that one. Now, I'm going to answer the question now rather than leave it to the end because it is relevant. The first question we got as soon as this was released by the users that saw it pop up in the release notes was, will we be bringing more tabs into this area? So can we bring in more and more information so that literally you can almost do everything from the front screens of the software rather than having to go in very much at all? And the answer is absolutely yes. Now that we've brought the concept into the software, there'll be a couple of benefits. One, I know that at the moment I can talk about because I know the team is working on it, is we're going to bring the staff members and member types into this tab so you can quickly and easily filter between staff member types and add those at this high level. Again, rather than having to go in, click into the job, find the tab, go to the members, add the thing, you just right click, bang, you're there. And you'll notice that on the right click menu itself, we have the ability to take you directly to the tab you want to go to. So if you want to go directly to the info tab, and then flick across the task tab, you can. Go directly to tasks. So just again, speeding up that process. So staff members and member types will be one that's coming in. It's likely that we will also bring in a tab form of priority so that you can quickly and easily grab jobs and work orders and up the priority from the screen without having to go into the job. And then what the future brings from there, we're not sure. We're certainly making no promises at the moment, but we imagine as we receive feedback from users, there will be more things we can engage in the future. What's more exciting for us is that this development is something we can place throughout the software. It's a repeatable component, which is basically a software technical term for saying it's something we can use over and over again in different areas to massively speed up processes and just save you clicks. I mean, the software itself, Jobman already delivers mammoth return on investment from time savings compared to archaic processes like older softwares or Excel or Sheets or whiteboards. The software itself buys you back and your team so much time by removing repetitive tasks, improving automation, creating basically a systemized process that the whole company can work with rather than having isolated information pockets and siloed staff. It already delivers so much, and now we can just make it even snappier, even better, and put that power in your hands. And that for us is very exciting, and we certainly hope you feel so too, which is really good. I'm not sick, by the way. Hay fever, just in case I sound a little bit weird. I'm not actually unwell. I've just do unfortunately suffer from allergies. So fired up a bit earlier this year. Wasn't expecting it, but that's okay. We fight through. The next usability feature that's come into the software in the last couple of weeks is another one that has been mammothly requested by our client base. I think something I absolutely love about this company, and certainly my job, is just how much we listen to our users. It's crazy. You think about most software, you shoot off a ticket. Imagine, emailing Microsoft, hey, it'd be really cool if you won't even hear back if they acknowledge it at all. And yet here we are, we take that feedback on board, we listen to our users, and certainly when we have a lot of users saying the same thing, we take that pretty seriously. Now, this is something that we always had on our roadmap, but we're able to prioritize it in because it seems like one of those features that absolutely will bring so much benefit to so many companies. And that is the quote summary report for items. So previously in the software, you've always been able to run a quote summary report. Amazing report. It breaks down the materials, time, and services from your quote before the quote goes out the door. This has a couple of huge effects for your business. Number one, forecasting. Absolutely massive. You can look to the next couple of months. How many quotes do we have in the non-accepted fashion or the follow-up fashion status? How much are the dollar values? What is the total amount of time we're looking at for those? What is the total amount of material? If we can assume that we win 60% of our work, how much do we need to bank on for the next couple of months? So powerful. Second power is the validation. Before a quote even goes out the door, you can see the impact of that time, the total material usage, the services. You can get a really good understanding for what your net profit should be. I mean, Jobman always talks about profit-driven quoting as being one of the biggest benefits to the manufacturing industry. Know your numbers before you start, not after. You know what I mean? And then utilize a system that can run through and provide even more benefit by then validating that data, by having the team measure their time, by being able to purchase order or inventory manage the goods, by allowing you to order the services, so on and so forth. So this has been a phenomenal tool, extremely well used, and like any fantastic addition to a software, the first thing our users do is they go, how can we make it better? Which we love. We get excited by that energy. And the first question we've received over and over again was, can we break this down further? So no matter what your manufacturing industry is, almost all companies that we come across like to break down a job into slightly more convenient quotable chunks. We call them items. They're commonly referred to as areas or rooms. So a great example would be a kitchen, bathroom, laundry, ensuite if you operate in the cabinet making space. Each of those is an item. Within those items, you have your products, your materials, your labor, your services, your line items, you know what I mean? Everything's wrapped up in that nice container, which we call an item. And the advantage of that for your business is twofold. Number one, it now makes the quote a lot easier to manage because you're managing it by room or area. It makes it better for the client to read and understand. They can break the pricing down based on a room or an area or a JO rather than trying to nut through this massive list and work out where they're up to. And three, most importantly, you can utilize those items to then separate out rooms or areas inside a job into work orders to allow you to project manage really large jobs very comfortably. So a lot of power behind that one feature. The interesting use case there, though, was people wanted to be able to validate the time, materials, and services independent to each room or area rather than just a whole number. I mean, the whole number provides phenomenal return on investment when you think of the usability case. But that ability to come in and drill in even further and just look at just the kitchen. Just show me the kitchen so I can validate the numbers. Yep, that looks pretty good. There's going to be a little bit of bespoke work in here. Maybe we need to up a little bit of time. Fantastic. I can tell that now without trying to break that information apart from the whole quote. Go back into that area, make it a slight change, hit save, run the report again, bang, happy days. So that usability, we 100% agreed when users came back with and said this would be phenomenal. We were 110% in agreement that would be a wonderful addition to the software, and we've been able to make it happen. So that's live now. I'm going to show you quickly. There's a couple of ways of accessing it, which is even better. Not only has the team improved the report and brought in the additional features to allow you to have this power, but they've also taken the next step and thought about how can we allow users to access this in different ways so that they can quickly and easily navigate to the information they need when they need it. Very exciting. Invoice and bill separation. This is just a flat out quality of life improvement, and we're pretty excited about it. Now, there's always been a weird question we've gotten in our software, which is why does Jobman refer to all things accounting as invoices, whether they be an invoice to a client or an invoice to a supplier? And the truth of the matter is because that's how modern accounting platforms refer to accounting ledgers. They no longer differentiate between the old terminology of invoices and bills. They're not bills, they're just invoices that either you pay or are paid. Similarly, most modern accounting platforms don't utilize the term credit. It's not like the old days where you would physically provide a credit to your client, which they could then utilize to take off their account. It's simply an account ledger. It's a reduction of the account ledger itself. If they owe you $1,000 and you have a $200 credit, basically that means they owe you $800. You're not actually physically giving them the money back. So that we followed that principle from the outset with our software. We followed that modern accounting terminology, and in our platform we had invoices. Now, absolutely, our invoices were broken up into the concept where they were invoices to clients and invoices from suppliers, so that you could filter them nice and easy. The platform has worked very well on that pretense for a long period of time. The downside is, if you're like me, you've been around a while, we are very comfortable with the old terminology of the differences between an invoice and a bill. It's a very straightforward accounting term that makes a lot of sense. An invoice is to a client, a bill is from a supplier or vendor. So being able to see that, and most importantly, delimit that information and separate that information in the system was a big thing for a lot of clients. Most people sort of, if you're in a more modern sense with your accounting, they sort of understand the new terminology that accounting platforms use, and they were pretty comfortable with it. But again, anywhere where we can make the life of our clients a little bit better, a little bit easier, and offer them solutions that make sense in their language, we will absolutely do. So this has been a great feature. In fact, I can say that with absolute certainty because the morning it was released, we received about 10 emails from clients thanking us for releasing this. And we just want to say quickly, if I may take a moment of your time, how much we appreciate that feedback. Often we release things into the software and we know they get well utilized and thought about because often a lot of people ask for them, but we don't often get a lot of feedback about it. And it's not until I do a webinar about the feature where people will sort of come back, oh yeah, that's really cool. This is one feature that popped in the release notes, and immediately 10 clients came back and said, thank you so much. This is huge. This is what we really wanted in the software. Just make our life a bit easier day to day. So we appreciate that feedback. Thank you for sending it through. And just know that we absolutely love hearing that back in so we know we're on the right path. What does it mean for you? It's very straightforward. All we've done now is in the main invoicing tab, you'll notice now that there is three tabs within that area rather than just the old single invoicing tab. And that is now split into invoices, bills, and sync. So that makes it just a little bit easier for you to separate the information. You can quickly filter between your invoices and bills, and then you can use the drop-down menus now to delineate specifically within that area. So if you just want to look at deposit invoices, or partial invoices or full invoices in the status awaiting payment or draft, so on and so forth. You're just looking at the invoices, and then you can do the same thing with the purchase order bills and the vendor bills in that area. Similarly to that, you'll notice we've also separated it in jobs and leads. So it now just makes it a little bit cleaner for you to be able to go into a job area and say, okay, I just want to see the invoices I've produced for this client. What is my outstanding? How much has we received? Turn on those columns, the very powerful columns in there for quick identification of financial information, how much is due, so on and so forth. And it'll tally those numbers down the bottom. And now, because the screen is just looking at the invoices, there's no bills in there as well. It makes the information cleaner, more comfortable, and easier for you to read. And most importantly, the totals make more sense, which is always a big thing. However, to cover the fact that a lot of our users have always been really comfortable with the idea of having both their invoices and bills in the same area, you'll notice now that there's a beautiful little tab which allows you to flick between the two areas instantly. So you can go from invoices to bills within the job in one click and back again, and so on and so forth. Just to give you that usability and visibility, we didn't want to hamper anyone that was used to using the system in the modern sense. We didn't want them to suddenly wake up and go, oh dear, where's all my stuff gone? So it's really easy now. And I think that's probably one of the things people appreciate most about the release is the fact that it's easy to navigate, it's easy to find, it's easy to use, and it makes a lot of sense. Things like that, bread and butter for us. We love them. We like to bring them into the software as much as possible. So thank you for your feedback. And most importantly, thank you to all the users that requested it. It's obviously had a massive impact on a lot of lives. So awesome work. New functionality with a caveat. Excuse me. So Jobman has always been extremely good at helping your team narrow the information they need to work on the jobs and leads and the operations they need to work on very simply. It's always been a big part of our software. One of the primary default use cases for that, of course, is the agenda screens. Agenda screens are not just about visibility, they're the workhorse of the software. By having your operations and your labor centers broken up into agenda screens, we're not just giving you visibility where jobs are up to and what tasks need to be done. You can then assign members to those screens, and then via the kiosk or the office user license, your team can interact with those tasks, measure time, complete them, keep the ball running. And this is how Jobman absolutely delivers on its promise to give you the capability of running a business looking down, not in. You know what I mean? Really buy you back that time. And it's huge. The software runs the team runs the software, and you have a beautiful ecosystem that allows you to run basically a fully automated business. As part of that, we have some really cool functionality around the ability to restrict to see own tasks. So for a lot of companies, they might have, an assembly team of 10, and they have one assembly screen because it makes sense when production managers are looking at that screen, they want to see everything that's going on. But then they actually go in, and whether they use staff member types or simply staff members to assign, they might assign those tasks to particular members. And one of the things they want to be able to achieve is they want to make sure that let's say I'm on that screen and Sally's on that screen, and I have three jobs to do, and Sally has three jobs to do. Rather than confuse me, even though I can see my name clearly assigned as a member, so it's pretty straightforward, just to make my life even easier, we have the functional capability to restrict to see own tasks only. That's a simple click on the staff when you add them to the agenda screen. And bang, now instead of seeing those six jobs, I'll just see the three jobs to me. How easy is my life? Like, you only had to make one agenda screen and basically fully automated that operational area of your business, and someone just needs to come in and assign those members to take advantage of that. Absolutely fantastic. So all that functionality has existed, is really powerful, is where we recommend our users take advantage of that lean manufacturing principle of pull manufacturing rather than push manufacturing. Allow the system to run the operations based on the dates to make sure you hit your targets. Sometimes, though, uh, I, um, my understanding is that clients want to be able to set up those agenda screens or set up their jobs and have that information flow through, and they want it to be visible to the team, but they don't necessarily want them to be able to interact with the tasks. I'll be honest, I have a bit of trouble coming up with a really good user case story for this, but I'm sure there are clients out there who would be able to tell me the exact use case for this. But my understanding is it might be something along the lines of I'm part of your assembly team, and part of my job is I am also your factory floor person, which means I quality control a lot of the jobs coming through. However, you don't actually want me doing the jobs. I'm not the person who's supposed to go in there and tick off the assembly, so to speak, but it is my job to handle the QC. Similarly, the reverse to that instance is the assembly team themselves within your manufacturing center are the people actually doing the assembly of the job, but we don't want them doing their own QC. You have a very important process built into that process where you want the factory foreperson to do that so that you can validate the job going out the door, and you know that as part of your quality control principles, this has been covered, and the team themselves can't just go in and shortcut the system and go, hey, I'm going to tick that off. It's fine. Just get it out the door, so to speak. So what we have in the system is we have the ability to take those controls one step further. So if you go into staff, I don't know why I'm pointing at a screen. If you go into staff and you now click update, you'll see that there's an operations tab. Now it's been there for a while. Sort of sitting in the background, waiting to make sure that this releases the way we want it to go. And instead of selecting all, you can change that filter now to say selected only. What will happen when you choose these operations is now the team themselves can only interact with those operations. So, for example, in the example we just used then, I might turn on assembly for the team, but I do not allow them to interact with QC. Now, what does interact mean at a very straightforward level? It simply means they cannot start the operation, they cannot pause the operation, they cannot stop the operation, they cannot complete the operation, and they cannot set progress. So if you think about kiosk user or office user, when you go into a task, and one of the big things about Jobman is allowing the team to tick off operations and measure time, that functionality will now not be available. If they do attempt to start, stop, complete, set progress, so on and so forth, on an operation they are not linked to, the software will immediately warn them and say, you do not have the authority to make changes on this operation. So very cool, very powerful functionality. What this then means is I can still have an agenda screen with, just QC and assembly on it. And as the factory foreperson, I can see all the jobs that are being assembled, and I know when I hit my QC tasks. And I might also want the team to see those come up as well, so they know that we finished assembling. It's now sitting in QC. It's okay. It's not our problem, but it's there. We can see it. We know that has to be ticked off before the next processes can happen, so we can limit that information, but still see it without having to create a complex set of multiple agenda screens to separate things out. So in that user case, both the factory foreperson and the team would see those tasks, but if any of the assembly team attempted to start, stop, complete, or set progress or pause on the QC task, they would not be able to, which is awesome. The caveat and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is it is also extremely powerful in itself. So it's important, and the part of the reason I wanted to bring it to today's webinar to let people know what this functionality does and why is because for a lot of companies that have had these set up, and now the functionality is coming out, they're finding a lot of their staff can't do things. And obviously the downside to that is if you limit your software to the point where you're in absolute finite control, it's really good from a use case perspective. But it now does mean you've got more stuff you have to manage. You have to be across the fact that the staff can be delimited by role, so that's what they can see and interact with. Now you have the limitation by agenda screen, and you have a third limitation on them, which means even if you've given them access based on role and permission and they can see the thing on the agenda screen, you might not necessarily allow them to touch it. Now, for companies where that's really important, phenomenal functionality. My recommendation for the vast majority of users in Jobman would be simply to set it to all. You have two layers above that with which you can allow and stop staff seeing what they shouldn't be seeing or doing, and they're much easier to set up and quicker to use. And that The main reason why that's so important is because there's going to come days where I might not be available, for example. I might have a week off. And rather than have to go through and change a heap of processes within your system, you can simply add one of the assembly members, for example, to the QC screen, and they can go in and for that week, you say, hey, Sally, your job this week is to tick off those tasks while Cam's away. And it's one click and it's really easy and it's no problems for managing your platform. But for companies that where it is really important and they have those processes set up and they definitely don't want certain people touching or interacting with certain things, this functionality is now available. It is there. It's really powerful. It's really clever. It's really intuitive. But just be warned that it will cause headaches if you go too hard on it. One of the more common use cases I've seen so far is quite often lead management teams, salespeople, estimators, or in smaller businesses, just the lead manager themselves. Sometimes will do some processes in the job. They might be involved, for example, in the job setup because they've won the lead, they've got the payment. They go in, set up the job because they know what the customer's looking for. They know the job type, so they set it up. But that's the end of their interaction. So based on that user case experience, we do actually want at a role level to give them access to jobs. They need to be able to see them. Cool, no problems. We do also want to give them access to an agenda screen so they can see the jobs coming through, so they know that there's certain jobs that need to be set up and a few tasks that need to be done. No problems. We can now do that. However, we may not want them touching any of the other parts. Like we don't want them accidentally. And this is not about malicious. You know what I mean? We're not saying people do things intentionally to disrupt your business. Often it's just accidental. You know what I mean? It's like, oops, I accidentally quickly completed drafting as well. You know what I mean? And that's a big issue because now the job hasn't been drafted. So from that point of view, the user case here would be that we can give them access to the operation for job setup and job setup alone. They can still interact with the jobs. They can see the jobs. Their role permission allows it, and they can see them on agenda screens, but they can't accidentally go in and tick off drafting or cutting or something along those lines, whatever your process looks like. So from that point of view, super powerful. Now available, now working. We have had a few tickets about it. I will be honest. A few people had to set up and they're in there and they're going, hang on a minute, a bunch of people can't do things. This is why. So double check, make sure that your functionality is set up to allow the users to handle the operations you need them to handle. If you go down this path, for most companies, my recommendation is just set that feature to all, save the headache, and then know that it's there in the back of your mind. So if it does become an issue, you do find that jobs or leads are being ticked off inappropriately by teams, whether it be accidentally or unintentional, you know now that you can lock it down a little bit harder. Just be warned that obviously there are some downsides to that. If you do need to move that person in to cover that role for a week or a few days or even a day, for example, they won't be able to interact and someone's going to have to step in over the top. So fantastic functionality. Caveat. Happy days. The last one, super quick, before I dive in and show you a few of these things, is as I mentioned, the capability now to see quantity and units in job resource materials. I've got a fantastic example here where I have a couple of boards. You can see that the units are set up as should be, 10.2574 square meters and 2 square meters. That's the unit because it's how you buy the board. You buy it in square meters and you sell it in square meters. However, because of the fantastic handled in whole quantity control in category, you don't have to apply it to every material. Just go into the category and say this whole category, whether it be boards, sheets, edge banding, for example, all handled in whole quantities. Not a problem. Bang, tick that. And now every material in your catalog underneath that list will automatically have this function. And when you see it, the conversion was always there. So previously you would see 3.56 sheets or 0.71 sheets. Now you will also see the unit of measurement to the side, just to let you know that this is a handled in whole quantity material, but also provide some validation. A lot of companies have their catalogs set up in such a way that they might not have filled out the functionality correctly. So for example, they might have the size of the board, but they may not have put the unit to conversion in. So a 2400 by 1200 board, for example, is 2.88 square meters. I know we're getting a bit mathematical, not my forte, but just so you know how it works. And they may not have set that bit up. So when they were doing it, when they were making the conversions in, excuse me, in the resource materials, they may not have realized that it was actually a one-for-one relationship, and therefore they were ordering 100 square meters, for example, not 100 sheets. And there's a big difference in those two numbers. So now that validation is there. It's in the software. Super exciting. Nice and easy to use, nothing to do there. It's automatically turned on for you. It's sitting there in the background, so you can check it at any point. And just another little quality of life feature to really help get the most out of the software. Last quick thing before we dive into the software itself. Super exciting. I've added this new segment to our webinars now where I talk about upcoming events that are probably very useful or interesting for you to find out about and provide a lot of value to businesses. And one of those is coming up in a few days. There's only a handful of seats left, I believe. If this is of interest to you, I recommend you get onto this fast. If you are interested, send an email to sales@jobman.com at the end of this webinar, and we will shoot you through the information. Basically, one of our phenomenal implementation partners, Empire Blueprint, is running a boot camp, a number of days. It's a 2-day intense setup and foundation course for Jobman. One of the most common questions we get around building the software and implementing it into teams is how long does it take? And that the answer is always the same. How long is a piece of string? How long do you want the process to be? If you've got a couple of hours a week or 15 minutes a week, it could take weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months, to get this rolled out into your platform, into your company. However, we have found from our experience that companies that have been willing to dedicate a handful of days, just take themselves out of the business for a few days, invest in the technology, invest in understanding the system, invest in building the system, means they can come back into the business and very quickly roll it out, which means they're getting return of investment virtually immediately. And as far as I know, and I've been around solutions management a long time, there are very few platforms with which you can achieve that. More importantly, there are very few teams in the world that are able to achieve that with you. And we are very fortunate to have Empire Blueprint as one of our partners. And this boot camp is definitely the way to go. So if you are new to Jobman, or you've been playing with Jobman, or you've been thinking about Jobman, or you've been using Jobman for a little while, but you haven't got it fully set up, and you know what it can deliver for your company, but you haven't just found that time slot to be able to step in and modify these things, absolutely 150% recommend this opportunity. Get in there, spend the 2 days. It's online, so it's all good. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home or your workplace. Get in there for 2 days, learn it, understand it, build it, use it, get the money back in your pocket. And the price is phenomenal for the 2 days. It's extremely efficient because it's group sessions, which means you're not spending, you don't have to remortgage the house to get Jobman operational. So check it out. If you want more information, come back to us at the end of this webinar, sales@jobman.com. Very easy. Or send us a contact form from the website. We will send you the links. Or even, look up Empire Blueprint. So if you want to bypass us, go straight in, check out the website, and contact them, and they'll be able to send you the info. But absolutely worthwhile doing. And for anyone that's serious about getting this operational, getting it done in 2 days just means you're buying back your time and your money and your improvement and your company all the faster. All right, we've got a couple of minutes before some questions. So I want to quickly jump in and I want to show you a couple of these fantastic new features. Forgive me. Okay. So first one's first, very excited, is the new task and info tab managing. I call it lightning fast. It's because it's amazing. And if you weren't aware, it's now here. So go into either your job or lead screen and you can right click and it will immediately bring up this new menu. As I said, depending on where you click, will take you directly to the information you want to see. So I can go directly to the info tab, but don't worry, I can quickly flick across to the task tab as well. Absolutely amazing. Exit, no problems, right there. Now, I want to give you some good use cases for this because I think often we produce these features and we release them, we tell everyone how exciting they are, and when we produce documents about how to build them, how to use them. In this case, you don't need to do anything, it's there for you. But it's like, okay, cool, that's great, Cam. How do I actually use this thing and why do I use this thing? So I think the most common use case will be, as I said previously, it's twofold. One is validation of data. Now, if you're like me and you like your data, quick button, get it to full screen. Let's see what's going on here. I really like this. You can keep it as the model, doesn't matter. It's refreshing in the background. It's all live. Excuse me. But it allows you to quickly and easily filter that information, see what's going on. You saw how fast that was. I didn't have to go into the job to the task screen to validate this information. I know it's only a couple of clicks, but if you're doing that, if you're in production management or lead management, you're probably doing that 20 or 30 times a day. So this just instant information right there in front of you, not a problem. And we've tested this, by the way, on humongous workflows. Excuse me. We've built some massive workflows in our testing of this model and with, hundreds of steps. and tasks and operations way more than anyone would be using our system for, and it was still just as responsive. We absolutely love it. Team has done a phenomenal job. I cannot commend them enough on this. So, two really important things straight off the bat: validation of data. You can see that I've completed these tasks, and most importantly, you can see when I completed them. So I can see that those operations are there. These were then they are due, and I went through and I've knocked those out. Awesome. So instant validation of data. Probably more importantly, though, for most users, it's what they need to do in these screens. They need to make quick changes, lightning fast rescheduling, or just the ability to move target dates. For example, if because I've actually completed these tasks early, there's no point waiting to go get the invoicing done. I may as well just make it happen now. So directly from this modal, I can go in, excuse me, and change the date, all tasks or tasks behind it, tasks before it doesn't matter. Ignore capacity if I need to, and bang, just like that, I can go in, set new target dates, set new start dates, recalculate dates behind it, utilize the intelligence of the system around where those things are set. And you'll see because I've modified those dates and I've moved everything, the system is now telling me, hey, they're complete out, but you're behind the eight ball, which is fine. So typically you would not need to do that. You would just move those operations forward. You can also see the time against progress. And at any point, you can click into these operations and still get access to the old dialogue, which had so much more information around it. Oh, excuse me. So you can still see all of the items, all of these are hyperlinked, will take you directly where they need to go, changing members, lock target dates, so on and so forth. So the first big thing is validation of data, very quick, very easy. The second thing for a lot of companies is just the ability to quickly and easily modify information. So if you've got a few old jobs and the team hasn't been necessarily using the software correctly, that ability to quickly go in, change and edit and modify, excuse me, the completed tasks is a big one. And again, see that information come through, see what's happening, make changes to the target dates, so on and so forth, all from one click, very easy to go. Yes. Oh, excuse me. Hate this time of year. Okay. So that's big. It's now available in the job and lean screen. As I said, we've also recently introduced the info tab. So again, directly from there, you can pick up some information such as going out to where am I heading out today? Maryborough, Bundaberg Central, casual, 48-hour drive. We got it. No problems. Love it. But how fast was that? Bring up the information, get directly to the area, and off you go. It's important to note that your activity and note screens will also be now available on this info tab. So again, fast validation of information, a big one for a lot of companies that want to see notes quickly. Awesome. Right click, bang, there it is. There's the notes relevant to the job or lead. A recent addition that has also come out is now you can see job and lead details in here. So really powerful functionality. And as I said, over time, we will be including and bringing in new features. One of the ones I know we are working on at the moment is the staff member types. So again, give you that ability without having to go into the job, into the area to find the thing. Give you that ability to modify the information live. And then because you can modify it live, you're in and you're out. Really quick, really user-friendly, really fantastic. And we will be bringing more of this functionality throughout the software in other areas as well. So again, click in, go to the area. It's not bad. It's not horrific. It's really nice. It works well. It's well featured in the software, but all of that now replaced. One click, bang, go, interact, do, check out the info. And one of the great things is I really love is anywhere in the models, new models, where you interact with a link, instead of taking you out of the area, it will now open it in a new area. And I think that's another really important part that I forgot to mention. Excuse me. So if you're validating data or checking something, I need to change something, it won't take me from here to the area. It will open a new area so I can make the changes, come back and keep going about my day in the software. The other thing that's super useful to know, seamless dropping, dragging, and everything you're doing is live. So even when I'm making changes here, it's not a problem. The information is refreshing the background. So even though this is lightning fast and responsive and easy, don't worry, it's still live. Changes made will impact the software in the background and make sure that everything is constantly up to date because it is a live system and you have multiple users looking at it and interacting with it. And off they go. Last thing before I lose my voice, I do apologize. is the phenomenal new item quote separation summary. So I promised there was a couple of ways of accessing this, and we certainly have delivered on that front. So the first way is the traditional way. When inside the quote, so you've saved the quote, you can come in and run the full report, see everything, fantastic. And now you have the capability to delimit directly from this screen. So if you just want to see one or multiple, not a problem. Notice the numbers changing, all very quick, all very seamless, all very easy. And as always, you can utilize this to come directly back to the quote. So that's option one. You'll also notice now that we're getting excited about our right-click functionality, we've also been able to bring in a new right-click feature to your quotes, which now allows you to do the same thing, but in one click. So it will open up the quote summary report already delimited to this area, ready to rock and roll. So fantastic. That's two ways of accessing the information and providing the validation you're looking for, which of course can then be exported and printed if you need it. I would say most people would not need that functionality in the item summary report because the aim of what we're achieving here is quick validation. We're just checking the rooms or the areas, make sure they work, and then making changes as we need them. But you can do it if needed, especially when forecasting. Definitely worthwhile forecasting, setting out some exports, validating some of that data, and bringing it back. And then, of course, the third way of accessing it is you can now access it directly from the items themselves once you've saved the quote. So you'll notice that when I changed, and I'll just quickly show you this again, here on the main screen where I'm looking at the quote, it's the summary report, but actually going inside the items, this will automatically delimit to the item summary report. And again, produce the report limited just to that item ready to go. So three fantastic ways of using it. Why do I bring them up? Simply because often we find we release features and people are not necessarily aware of all the different ways that they can access the information on use cases. So that's why we have these webinars, which is cool. And second most important thing to note, just so you're aware of how this works, is reporting in our system requires what's called a save state. So you will not see the item summary report if you're still working within the item because the data is not yet what we call validated, it has not yet been saved to the system to allow it to be reported on because you're working inside it. And that pretty much concludes what I wanted to go through today, but I'm going to leave you with a little usability hack because it's something I don't think everyone is fully aware of. And while we're talking about the power of the new quote summary and item summary reports, I think it's worthwhile taking a moment just at the end of this webinar to briefly mention how our system works and why it's live and why that's so important and how we can probably save a lot of companies a lot of clicks. It's not something we thought about from a usability issue or usability perspective is probably the better way of saying it. To us, the system is quite natural and intuitive, but for a lot of users, if you don't understand the precept of how the software is built, you might actually be over-clicking, which might be slowing down your process. So I want to show you this very quickly, and then we'll dive into a couple of questions, just so you get a really good understanding of what this is. So let's go back quickly. And we'll discard those changes. Yes, happy days, I didn't make any. That's cool. When you're at the main screen of a quote, this is what is called the quote itself. So this is the quote, this is the function, this is the area in which you can then modify and change or edit or create new quotes. When I click this button, what is happening is the software is creating what's called a revision. So it's building a live version of that quote, it's copying it out, allowing you then to make changes. Now, the reason why this is so cool is twofold. Number one, this is live and it's cached. So that means potentially, not that we recommend it, but for some companies it is worth knowing, you could have two people working on the same quote. So if you have a really large quote and my job is to deal with level one and the JOs or rooms and areas involved, and someone else is to do section two, because this is live, this is browser-based, we can both be interacting with it at the same time because we're both working within the revision. It's not live, it's not saved in the system yet. What it is doing though, it is caching and saving as you're making changes live. So why that's really interesting to note is because basically what it means is I am pretty free whilst inside this revision to move around, make changes, touch things, preview things, add new things, and move around. And all the time that I'm doing that, the system is live updating and saving those changes to this version, which means you don't need to, I guess, the common question we get is, I don't need to make a change in here. Let's say I come in here, add a material, And I'll just chuck a couple of these in just for fun. Hit create. And off it goes and it starts recalculating. I don't need to wait for this to save. In fact, I don't even need to save the whole thing. I can just come back out, come back into here. Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to add another one of three of those, or 34 of those apparently. Bang, that can keep doing its thing. I can move back out. Now, I know for a lot of you, you who are used to our system and you absolutely love it. This makes a lot of sense. You're like, yeah, I know that. That's it's awesome. It's part of the reason I love Jobman is you can literally be jumping in and out, making changes, come in here, modify some things. Hasn't even finished doing its thing. Doesn't matter. It's a live version. I can come in and at any point I can go back into that area. There we go. Information's all there, ready to go. I'm working on a live version within a version. I don't need to click update or save. It's continuously saving within this version. Now, this button then is designed to do what we call save and commit, is really probably what it should say. Save and commit. I've made a bunch of changes. I've run around, I've done my things, and I'm flying in and out of here. I'm, adding new items. It's all fast and fantastic. Let's just, I don't know, add in a kitchen. Why not? Happy days in level one, the section. That's cool. I can modify the description. Lots of cool stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's really responsive. It's really easy. I can make changes without relying on the system having to commit those constantly. What it means is that the system can then deliver for you really quick and responsive quoting. And I think often we see people come through and they go, "Oh, seems like everything takes a while. Like I've got to do that and then wait for this and then have this thing," and they think we're slowing them down. Absolutely not. You can keep working. You can get in there. You can keep making changes, modify. Absolutely, yes. Jobman is going to take a moment. It's doing a lot in the background. This is huge, right? This software allows you to modify styles, control hundreds of thousands of elements worth of labor, service, material, all at a click. Like I'm just clicking around, making changes, modifying sizes, all that sort of stuff is really incredible part to what makes this technology so good. And yeah, it has to run off and it has to do some serious calculations in the background to make those changes. But you can see that I'm not limited to having to worry about modifying or waiting for these things to keep working for me to keep doing my thing, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. So I wanted to bring that up because it's a big one where often we get some feedback from clients like, oh, I feel like I sort of have to slow down a little bit and wait for things. And is it really buying me that much time? Absolutely. That's all live. And once this has done its thing in the background, it's just doing its thing, banging away. When I now hit save, what I'm saying to the system is save and fully commit those changes. This is the new quote, override the old quote, bring in the versioning, allow me to now run my summary reports because I've committed those changes. It's live in the system. I can report on it. I can see the items as my new item. No problems. Bang, ready to go. Fast, responsive, validation, information, all at your fingertips. And maybe it's our one of the things that we sort of have not done enough of, and something I'm definitely going to be including more and more in these webinar and educational online pieces is just showing you some of those usability hacks and tools so that you get a better understanding of our system. And then in turn, that allows you then to use it better day to day. And maybe potentially that one thing could have been the thing that's sort of been holding you up because you've been sitting there going, oh, every time I estimate, I have to wait for a little bit for the things to happen and then do the next stuff. And it feels like it's slowing me down a bit. I've got a good rhythm when I estimate, I'm going to get these things out the door. And now just by seeing that, I could have potentially brought you back several hours in your day and you're much happier with the software and its usability. If that's the case, absolutely worth doing. Magic, pumped. And love it. Love that we can offer those opportunities to companies. And look, we get it. It's a big beast. It's a big bit of software. It delivers a lot for companies. There's certainly a lot going on there. So we really, really do want to make sure that we've got plenty of information for you so you can take advantage of it and use it to the best of your ability. Lastly, as always, everything I've talked about today is inside the application. Everything we release is well documented for those taking advantage of our new AI tools. You'll know just how good the information is in our system. AI tools are only as good as the background work you put in, and we've certainly spent years doing it. At any point, if you want to learn more about what we've shown today, simply go into the user menu, hit help, and you can talk to the AI, or you can check the documents, or you can send a support ticket in if there's something you need to validate for your system or an improvement change you'd like to make. We're always here to listen and help and learn. And I think that is probably my voice just about gone. So, as always, thank you so very much for joining me. I really appreciate the time. I hope you've had a fantastic week and I hope you're looking forward to an even better week coming forward, and that some of these new tools that have come out can now be utilized by you or your company and are worth sharing so you can get the most out of the platform. If you do have any questions and you want to quickly jump in the chat now and bring those up, please feel free. I'm a little bit over time today, but I'm always happy to take those couple of extra minutes just to make sure we're covering. If not, and you've got enough out of today, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely appreciate it. And I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one.